We all want to learn better, right? Faster, more efficiently. But what if I told you that the study methods you've probably used your whole life, the ones that feel super productive, are actually holding you back? Well, today, we're going to break down the science of why that is and, more importantly, how to fix it. You gotta love how blunt this is, right? Because we've all been there. You've got your textbook page covered in so much highlighter, it basically glows in the dark. It feels like you're really getting stuff done, but the science, it suggests all that color might actually be making things worse. And that feeling brings us to this pretty shocking number, 97%. Studies show that's the percentage of students who rely on these kinds of inefficient study strategies. Think about that. That means almost everyone is putting in the hours, but they're doing it in a way that just doesn't build lasting knowledge. So let's dive right into our first section, the rainbow textbook lie. We're going to pull back the curtain on why those study habits you swear by probably don't work the way you think they do. Just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got all the comfy, passive stuff. Highlighting, rereading your notes. Feels good, feels easy. But on the right, that's where the magic happens. Practice tests, flashcards, explaining it out loud, they all have one thing in common. They force your brain to stop being a spectator and actually do something with the information. Okay, so why do we stick with those passive methods? Well, it's because our brain is playing a very, very clever trick on us. This brings us to section 2, the illusion of knowing. And here's the culprit. It's called the illusion of fluency. You know the feeling. You reread your highlighted notes and the information just feels so easy, so familiar. Your brain goes, oh yeah, I got this. But here's the trick. What it's really saying is, hey, I recognize this. And trust me, there is a massive, massive difference between recognizing something that's right in front of you and actually being able to recall it from scratch. And that's the bottom line. That feeling of productivity you get from rereading, it's a total trap. It builds up this false confidence that just completely falls apart the second you're looking at a blank test paper and have to pull that information out of thin air. You've basically been training for a multiple choice quiz when the real test is a full-on essay. All right, we've diagnosed the problem. Now let's talk about the cure. Section 3, a workout for your brain. It's time to introduce the solution, and its name is active recall. To put it simply, active recall is the process of deliberately pulling information out of your brain. See, instead of information just flowing in while you read, you're forcing it to come out from your memory. And yeah, it's effortful. It can even feel difficult, but that's exactly why it works. I love this analogy. Think about it. You don't build muscle by watching someone else work out at the gym, right? You have to lift the weights yourself. Rereading your notes is just watching. Active recall, that's you in the gym doing the heavy lifting that actually builds those strong memory connections. Now, this next part is going to sound a little weird, but stick with me. Section 4, why failing is winning. Because in the world of learning, a little bit of failure is actually a really good thing, all thanks to something called the testing effect. The testing effect is just so cool. What the science shows is that the very act of trying to remember something, even if you get it wrong, even if you can't remember it at all, that struggle actually cements the information in your brain way better than just passively looking at the answer again. The struggle is the entire point. And I mean, look, the proof is in the data. This chart shows how much information students retained after just 1 week. The group that only reread the material, they remembered very little. But the group that took just one practice test, their retention was dramatically higher. It's not even close. The data is incredibly clear on this. So please, remember this. That feeling of difficulty, that feeling of your brain straining to find an answer, that is not a sign that you're failing. That is the learning happening in real time. Every time you struggle and then retrieve an answer, you are literally forging and strengthening the physical pathways in your brain. Okay, so we've covered all the why. Now for the fun part, the how. Let's get practical. Section 5, smarter, not harder. How can you actually apply this science to your own study sessions? Well, the perfect partner to active recall is a technique called spaced repetition. So instead of cramming everything the night before a test, you quiz yourself on information at longer and longer intervals. You might review something after 1 day, then after a few days, then a week, and so on. This process basically tells your brain, hey, this information is actually important. Don't throw it away. Here is a dead simple way you can start doing this, like tonight. First, read a chapter or a section of whatever you're studying. Then, and this is the most important step, you have to close the book.
Seriously, put it away where you can't see it. Then grab a blank piece of paper and write down, or even just say out loud, everything you can possibly remember. Only after you've squeezed everything out of your brain are you allowed to open the book back up and see what you missed.
And just like that, with one simple change in your process, you've transformed studying from a passive, lazy activity into a powerful, active learning session. This is how you build real, durable, long-term memory. Yes, it feels harder, but it feels harder for a reason, because it's actually working. So I'll leave you with this one question. The next time you sit down to study, just ask yourself, am I doing this just to feel familiar with the material, or am I studying to truly remember it? Because that choice, right there, makes all the difference in the world.